Hello, my name's Doug, and I'm the Head of Technology and Service at Grant McGregor Limited. Today, I'm joined by Andrew, and we're going to be discussing CRM Insights. Hi, Andrew. How are you today?
Yeah, doing thanks, Luke. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for joining us here in sunny Edinburgh.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Glad to have you. So we're going to talk a bit about CRM and some insights around that. So just from your perspective, why do SMEs still struggle to get a clear view of their sales, customers, contacts, and ongoing work like projects?
Yeah, it's a very good question. We've worked with quite a few SMEs now, and putting in our tool, of course, but seeing how they move from their current setups to CRMs, and then, I guess, adopting the sort of CRM approach. And quite a lot of times they struggle with, especially on the smaller end of the scale, understanding the data that they have across all the different, I guess, areas that they have that data. So what I mean by that is if they've got information about their pipeline that they're working with right now, or they have information about their customers, their contact details, their records, things like that, they have all of that. But as soon as they try to pull that together or action any of that or use that for any sort of financial gain in terms of promotions and things like that, that's where it starts to break down. It's not connected between these different silos. So having something like a spreadsheet, very useful. You can save all of that data. You can have all of that information about these people. But as soon as you try and pass that amongst people, it starts breaking down. There's issues with version control, maybe on an Excel spreadsheet, people copying it and changing it and having updates saved locally. But I guess things like OneDrive can fix that. But as soon as you send a Excel spreadsheet to a manager or an investor to show them what the pipeline looks like, they save it, and then it looks different. It's not up to date. Whereas moving that into more of a CRM solution, everything's just brand new and up to date, and you have all the insights right away as well.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. I think that's very much in line with what we see with customers as well. Customers are using Outlook and spreadsheets and things like that, and it's fine when you're small, but as you start to grow, that starts to cause issues for people. So, just from your perspective, what point do businesses usually realize that spreadsheets and emails and things are not sufficient anymore?
Yeah, so it usually happens. It's like it happens over time. The issues definitely grow over time, but there's always some sort of trigger point that happens that really makes people think, oh, we should probably move on now from spreadsheets. And whether that's maybe losing a deal, you losing a quite important deal because you didn't have enough information, there wasn't enough context or insight, or you didn't reply to something quick enough. There was no sort of speed to that. Or it's maybe somebody leaving the organization that had all of that data in their own silo, in their emails, in their mind. They had that relationship just personal. So none of that got left behind when they left. So we've seen it before where maybe new sales managers come into an organization and they're asking, what's the pipeline looking like? How can we improve? And then teams have to, it's a bit of an embarrassing moment of, oh, we're actually not too sure. John, who's just left, he had it all in his email. So yeah, we don't know where we stand. And it's at that point that people realize, oh yeah, we probably should have something that we can easily get information from. So there's always some sort of some sort of action that happens that makes sure that people need to realize they need a CRM. But the leading up until that point is definitely just a more of a cycle. So it's, let's say if you're a small organization, you've got 20 customers, maybe 50 contacts. You can keep that in a spreadsheet. It's pretty easy. One tab, you can see everything happening. But as soon as you start getting more and more, or maybe there's multiple contacts across, multiple of the same contact across different departments, somebody getting in contact about a project versus a lead coming in, you might have multiple email addresses against the same person. If you're doing that across 100 or 1,000 contacts, all of a sudden that spreadsheet's become unmanageable. So it definitely grows over time, but there's always something that happens that means, yeah, now's the time to push that over.
Yeah, I think that's a very good answer. I think you're absolutely right there. It sounds like it probably could be summed up with the word accountability.
Mhm.
If people are working on spreadsheets and emails and all these sorts of things, then who's accountable for responding to that and keeping the sheet up to date and all that sort of thing, which a CRM system definitely helps with.
Yeah.
Where do you think businesses start to lose control of that sort of thing as they grow?
I'd say they start to lose control when they have too many people working on the same contact or the same relationship. So as soon as you start expanding out across multiple departments and you're wanting to have that same customer relationship or same record at least across multiple departments, people start losing control again with the accountability, the action that people are taking on this relationship. All of a sudden, the ownership of that is distributed across multiple spreadsheets, multiple emails, multiple notes, even, or even multiple systems. An organization might have a really good customer service tool and a really good CRM and a really good marketing tool. But that's three different really good systems that hold different levels of information about the same person. They could be having a great interaction with the person, the customer, in a marketing sense. They'll know every email that they opened. They'll know what links they're clicking on the website. In the same way, a sales team might understand their position in a deal really well, and the customer service person might know exactly what tickets that they've got open. But that might be the same person, and those three different departments don't realize that. And as soon as you get to the point that you're working on multiple different areas for one relationship and nobody's talking to each other about that, that's when things really start to break down.
Okay, yeah, so about bringing everything together, really, because yeah, these other systems are great, marketing tools and all sorts of things, but if they're not all talking to each other, then you start to lose control a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, so, from a business perspective, what do things look like day to day when things are spread across these different tools? You know, what's the user experience like there?
It's definitely disjointed for both the staff members and like within the organization, and of course the customer and their customer journey. That's the main thing that really gets impacted within there. So if you take those three departments examples again, let's say a customer, John Smith, is getting in touch. He's looking at a product that someone's selling on their website or a service that they're offering. He's done all of his research on there and he's clicked on certain links. He's subscribed to mailing lists, that sort of thing. Marketing teams are really happy with their solution. They're tracking all of that. That's great news. As soon as they pass that over as a relatively hot lead to the sales team, and there's no connection there, if they don't have a CRM solution that's bringing that data together, then they have to sort of start again. They go on a call with John and they jump on and say, "Oh, what are you interested in?" and start again with the qualification level of questions. And all of a sudden, the customer's restarting their journey every time.
Yeah, that must be annoying for them.
Yeah, very frustrating, and that leads to a high percentage of lost deals, less interest in the organization, in the sales process. It's the same handing over from sales to operations as well. Is if you do a great job selling, your CRM's great, you've sent the quotes out, everything's going well, they sign on the dotted line, and then it comes to implementing the solution or setting up the operation, deploying the project, anything that's happening there, and the operations team don't have all the information that sales agreed upon, then the customer journey starts again, and they have to start from the beginning, tell their scoping exercise and everything throughout there. So it's, yeah, at least a very disjointed customer engagement.
Yeah, I can imagine. Doesn't sound like much fun. So, when a customer's using all these different tools, what sort of thing usually gets missed during the setup of those?
So a lot of the time, it's the level of data captured about the customer and having that, I guess, synced across. So what usually gets missed, or I guess what usually gets double inputted, is the amount of data that you've got about the customer. So you might be capturing their pain points, or you might be capturing their intent levels for purchasing something across multiple systems. They might be misjointed, and again, the journey doesn't follow through. So a lot of the time, they're missing the overall details about a customer or an organization that they're selling to when they're setting up across multiple systems. And I imagine it's very similar on, I guess, more of the internal side of things with IT and security. Have you seen that sort of setup as well?
Yeah, absolutely. When customers are using a variety of different systems, that's additional logons that they have to maintain, a different additional MFA, multi-factor authentication, and then these systems could have been set up by let's say someone in marketing set one system up and someone in accounts set another system up. Does the business know that all these systems actually exist, or are they just things that these departments are using individually? So, bringing everything together centrally into a product which is properly secured and integrated and things reduces that kind of that need to maintain lots of different accounts and lots of different security.
Absolutely, yeah. It makes it a seamless process for both the agents and then also the customer as well.
Yeah, yeah. So where do you see the biggest gaps between sales, marketing, operations, and any other departments?
I'd say the biggest gaps is from right at the top end of the funnel with marketing to correlate that with what's happening with your existing customers. So I guess the furthest away that you can be in a sort of sales journey there. But if when we've seen people that are trying to upsell or cross sell and they're trying to get deeper into their accounts with the services that they provide, the products that they sell, their marketing team might be great at doing that and sending out the right campaigns and targeting the right people, but they don't have enough context about the people that they're targeting. So, for example, you might be sending out a great marketing campaign that's offering some money off of some sort of service or some product, but you don't realize that that same person has 3 open, pretty serious cases with a customer service team. They're not having a good time, and then all of a sudden they get a marketing email saying that here's a promotion, buy some more things off of us,
Yeah.
and that can just spiral down into customer churn and losing customers like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, one of the major benefits of having a CRM is pulling all of the existing customer data and using that to then power the outbound of expansion and upselling and cross-selling.
Okay. Yeah, I think we all know how annoying that is when you're having a bad time with someone and then suddenly you get a marketing email in the middle of it all. It's not what anyone wants.
No, it's not fun.
Do you think that these sorts of challenges show up differently across different markets, like finance or manufacturing or anything like that?
I think there's definitely different types of challenges that show up across the different industries. I'd say the core ones apply to them all. It's like different, I guess, flavors of the same issues that come up. So the not having the insight about your customers showing up against multiple different teams and silos. But in certain industries, there's definitely stronger pain points, I guess. So finance, for example, there's a lot heavier impact on like compliance, regulatory sort of compliance within there, everybody needing to have an audit trail, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
If you're selling financial products and instruments and things to organizations and you don't have the exact correct audit trail of that, then it could be some pretty serious implications there. And if everything's on spreadsheets and emails that get lost and things like that, then it becomes a real trouble. Whereas more on the, I guess, like sciences and sort of tech side of things, if you're selling into healthcare and some of these advanced solutions that people are selling, then it's not as simple as just send an email back and forth, track a field on a spreadsheet, and job done. It's a lot more complex. The whole sales process is more of a long-term project. It could take 6, maybe 12 months. And it's more on the relationship side of things. So the problem comes from not having enough context, not knowing who your stakeholders are, not understanding the relationship, and that's how deals fall through. As opposed to a more transactional side of things, manufacturing maybe, they're just shipping products, then it's all about the numbers. It's all about how quickly you can update those, how quickly you can understand what stock you have. And so a lot of the time, the core aspect is data, understanding what you've got and where it's applied. But different flavors of that across the industries.
So, from your experience of working with CRM products and different customers, what does it look like when a business does have a clear and well-run process?
Yeah, so when things start slotting into place of having all of that actionable insight and having all of that data about customers in one place, everything just becomes smoother. Everything becomes more contextually aware and just having more contextual intelligence, I guess, when interacting with customers. So I guess the result is twofold. You have the more context and more input with your customers, and you're also spending more time with those customers. So you're spending less time updating spreadsheets or trying to find the data. You're spending less time trying to prepare for a sales demo, let's say, and you can just have all your notes, have all the information available within 5 minutes, and actually spend more time doing customer-facing calls. And having the sort of ability to be a lot more agile, I guess, and be sort of ready for anything that is thrown against you, especially in the sales side of things. If, let's say, I was pitching a product to someone on a product demo and I couldn't make that demo within the last 5 minutes, something's come up and I need a colleague to jump in. If I didn't have a CRM, they wouldn't know what they're doing. They're going in blind. But with CRM tools, especially those that, like Halo, summarize AI insights about the customer, have all the information about the previous interactions, the lead scoring, all that clever information about the deal that's happening. My colleague can have a quick look at the notes, jump on the call, and they're ready to go, and the customer's sort of none the wiser. So you're having all of that smoothly run so that you're spending more time with customers and you're aware of what's happening when you are talking to them.
Yeah, I think I would definitely agree with that, and that rings true for the sort of thing that we do as an IT company. When a customer calls us, they expect us to have all the information at hand. You know who they are, what business they're calling from, what all their assets are, and what their last interaction was. All these sorts of things. So
Mhm.
it's important for us to deliver that to our customers, but then also it's important for our customers to be able to deliver that to their own customers as well.
Exactly that.
So, what changes when decisions are based on data rather than just guessing?
Good question. I think a lot of the time, when people are basing it on guesswork or, I guess, gut feeling or what that might be looking like, a lot of their maybe biases come into play and what their personal opinions are and things like that. That all mixes into pretty subpar results in terms of where you should be positioning certain products, customer interactions, service agreements, anything like that as well. So guesswork is, I guess, a little bit quicker sometimes rather than looking at the data. You can maybe have a good gut feeling and go with it, but the end result always breaks down further down the line. It always comes back to bite you essentially. Is that if you put a certain go-to-market strategy into play, or if you pitch a certain product to the wrong person, it might go well in the beginning, but then once you come to implement and once operations start working on it, all of a sudden it's not so good. Whereas if you have the data, you know what works well, you know the correct method to go down. You've done maybe some product market fit testing as well, and you've got insights into how certain deals were progressing. You know which avenues to go down and which not to. That definitely becomes a lot more profitable a lot quicker.
Okay, great. I think that's good advice. We've talked a fair bit there about the situation that customers might find themselves in already, and what a good situation looks like. So, if there's a business which is interested by what they hear and looking to make a start on this journey, where do you think they should begin?
I think a lot of organizations sometimes jump in too quickly with like maybe product first. They see that there's lots of CRMs out there doing great stuff. There's lots of fancy new AI features, and they jump sort of head on into that. When really, what our advice would be is understanding your processes a lot more in the first place before applying a good product. So yeah, the process first before the product. So I think a lot of our advice when we do implementations is asking questions back to the customers and really diving into, do they have a handle on their sales process? Do they know what their ICP is? Do they understand what a qualified lead looks like in their arena, in their product, in their service? And really nailing that down before applying that to a good product.
You talked a bit about processes and ensuring that they're in place first. So, what do you think's more important, process or technology? Which one should come first, really?
I definitely think that the process should come first. I think if a organization is looking at onboarding new CRM tools or any tool really, if you're in the sort of onboarding a cybersecurity tool, if you're looking at a ITSM tool, anything like that, you should be looking at the process first because there's lots of options out there. But if you end up choosing a CRM software that isn't malleable enough to your own process, and every organization has very specific processes to their selling patterns and things. And if you pick something that's not able to be configured to your process, then suddenly you're locked into that specific vendor. You're having to change your processes, and it becomes suboptimal there. Whereas if you choose your process first, you understand what's going on, then you'll be able to apply that to a tool.
Okay. I think I'm going to chuck in from an IT angle here as well that it's quite often important before selecting a technology to ensure that that technology is going to be compliant with your security processes as well.
Mhm.
So identifying whether that software has MFA capabilities and is it in line with your Cyber Essentials and your ISO and all these sorts of things. So before settling on one bit of technology, definitely get your processes sorted, and then also make sure it's a secure and up to date bit of software.
Absolutely, yeah. Should definitely be doing due diligence all the time.
So let's say a customer is using a CRM tool. What does good day to day use of that tool look like?
I think good day to day would be getting to grips with what's presented in front of you, like in a whether you've got that set up in a task-based view or if you've got that in a sort of a list pipeline view or anything like that, just getting comfortable with understanding your workload on a day-to-day basis. Especially if you're wanting to put all data into CRM, which we definitely advise, and then get all of your information in there so that you're not swivel chairing between lots of different applications and suddenly your day is lost by jumping between different areas. If you work with a view that works well for you, then you can just log into the tool in the morning. You've got everything ordered in the priority that it should be ordered in, and you can work through that in whichever best way possible. And further to that is keeping on top of that and updating that as well. So if you are working with organizations, you're doing sales demos, you've got those recordings there being integrated and brought through. If you're adding any notes, especially all of those manual note approaches, if you've been to a trade show, you saw somebody at lunch, you want to note something down, just being on top of that essentially. Nice and easy to do with lots of platforms, mobile apps and things like that. But just having the discipline to keep that up to date so that the day after when you sign in, everything's in the right order that it should be.
Yeah, I think it does. It becomes a necessary habit for the organization, and kind of needs to be enforced from the management level,
Mhm.
so that staff are aware of the product and using it. Because it's fine to have a CRM tool, but then if it's not actually being used and everyone's just gone back to using their email, then that's not the best place to be in.
Yeah, then there's no point getting a CRM tool in
Yeah,
the first
yeah,
place. So yeah, definitely managers sort of reviewing it weekly or whatever, like making sure that the right data is there, working with their staff to make sure that the right data is being inputted. And there's lots of different tools out there that can make that process easier for adding notes in voice notes and AI transcriptions and things like that. It's all about making the upkeep of the CRM not a burden and actually just really easy to do and therefore have more advantages.
yeah. If a CRM is configured correctly, it should make everyone's life easier.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what do businesses often misunderstand about a CRM tool?
I think one is building on what we've just spoke about and updating it. I think a lot of organizations feel like CRMs are a burden and it's just another layer of a database that they could have just done in Excel. They're already using Excel for logging this data. Why do they have to then log in some more in another tool? Whereas CRMs are actually built for understanding and prompting future use. So Excel spreadsheets, for example, they're great if you're logging down notes, but they're more for the analytical side of things. They track the information, you can run analytics, you can understand things. But CRMs actually prompt you to do more work and more, I guess, more including the action and driving what you should be done in your work day to day. So they can prompt what leads to go after. They can give you valuable insight into what customers to address first, understand churn risk about customers. They can analyze all that data into action as well. I think a lot of customers and a lot of teams, especially sales teams, they think it's just for sales teams. They think it's just for CRMs are for understanding deal pipelines, things like that. But really, CRMs are for the whole organization. Ultimately, almost every department in an organization would be working with customers or at least customer data in some way. Even internal teams, if an issue comes through a customer support side of a CRM and it needs to be raised to an internal IT team or an internal infrastructure team, or maybe go to finance or operations or even all the way through to management, the original request came from a customer. You need to understand that request. You need to understand the customer's account. So that's why CRMs are pretty core to the entire business operation. And it's not just a tool for sales.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. A CRM can be used for so much, and all areas of the business should be using it day to day and heavily involved in it, whether that's sales or marketing or projects or any of these sorts of teams. It should be core to the business.
Absolutely.
So let's say you brought in a CRM tool and you've got all this data in it now. How do you use it?
Very good question. I think a lot of people, I guess, stumble at that to start with. It's always quite nice to implement a new tool. It's all looking brand new. Everyone's excited. And then people sort of forget about it and don't keep that up to date and the information that they have within the tool they forget about as well. And really where we think people should start is, I guess, with the questions that matter most, especially on the sales and marketing side of things, is where are we losing deals, or what data don't we have so that we can enable to go into a new market that we're trying to go to? Who are our best customers? Who fit our ICP the most? All those main sort of questions to help you understand the sales cycle and understand your customers, and therefore benefit more and bring more customers on, get referral customers and things like that. So definitely start with those core questions about the revenue cycle, but then also build, I guess, relatively simple dashboards and reports to bring that data to light immediately, and have that on the home screen, get that being viewed by people day to day, so that you can identify any issues early on. In a similar way that in an IT world, where if you've got lots of alerts coming in on a certain area, or the parts of the asset management is flagging up on a recurring basis, there's a wider problem happening. In the same way that if there's multiple customers of a similar type that are having similar types of issues, that there might be a wider product issue. Or if you're having quite similar types of deals fall through, and your conversion rate of those types of deals and customers are lower than the rest of them, that there's something happening, that maybe the product market fit isn't right, or the team members that are working on that aren't working as well. So you can identify those trends a lot quicker. So the goal isn't more data, and the goal isn't just having somewhere that you can have data. The goal is to have better decisions based on that data.
It sounds like a good CRM tool would be able to display that data easily,
Mhm.
give you nice dashboards and give you good reports and things like that. So that once you've got all the data into the product, you can start making real time decisions based on that information.
Absolutely. Both the presentation of that data real time, and then also any notifications or flags or extra insight based on those as well. So things like AI summarization of customer accounts, or lead scoring and value adding within there, and having all of that layer on top and making that available straight away as well.
And I'm sure you could probably make that available to your customers as well if you wanted.
Yeah, exactly that. You can open that up to their side of things, whether that's customers seeing their own issues or any problems occurring or anything like that, and having more informed self-service, link that to knowledge centers, things like that, or even external stakeholders. If you're wanting to report this information to the board and things like that, they have that data before the meeting happens, and everything just flows much more smoothly within there.
Yeah, sounds much better than emailing PDFs around
Mhm.
and things like
Yeah.
that. So let's say a business is looking to move forward with a CRM platform. What makes a CRM project successful, and what can slow it down or hinder that project?
Yeah, so there's lots of factors that can be success, or sort of slow those implementations down. What we see most commonly is if there's too much over engineering of the implementation near the beginning, that definitely leads to issues towards the sort of going live of the solution as well. Um, Especially if there's only like one or two members involved, and they're trying to make sure that every single workflow is exactly correct, and every single interaction is exactly how they design it, and really over engineering it, but without the input of the people who would be actually using the system. Then as soon as you get to try and go live with that and push that out to everybody within the organization, you get a lot more resistance to that change. Whereas if you were involving more people in the process from the beginning, still having sort of clear ownership and direction, a project manager sort of level of implementation there, but then bringing in these different workflow owners and these different process owners within the organization to have their opinions and commit their configuration to the overall CRM. And by the time that you're going live, everybody knows what's going on anyway, and it's all nice and smooth. I think a lot of the times we work with organizations that have these dedicated teams of business consultants as well as IT consultants as well. I don't know if you've done very similar with your customers as well, where you're managing that whole operation.
Yeah, so yeah, project consultancy and collaborative working is something that we are more than happy to help with, especially with the CRM implementation. We've been through the journey ourselves and helped many other customers on that journey as well. And I think you're absolutely right that when we've put CRMs in the past, uh, it's important to get the buy-in from the business and not overwhelm them with, as you say, lots of different workflows and lots of new buttons and all these sorts of things. Just put something in that they can use that's simple and will immediately give them some tangible benefit. And the way we've found working with CRM platforms is that as long as the platform supports it, it should be an ever evolving project or consultancy piece. So as the business identifies, or we have a need for this, or maybe we can change this workflow or this button, should be fairly straightforward to do that, and that can be done, with the help of ourselves or yourselves, and we're more than happy to get involved in that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the most common, I guess, killers for implementations is if one individual or maybe an IT team within an organization sets everything up and then just hands it over to the business,
Yeah.
then it just gets shut down right away. Whereas if it was more of a consultative approach, multiple people involved, all the stakeholders, like you were mentioning, by the time that you're ready to go, then everybody knows what's going on.
Yeah, and we've been through that journey ourselves as well, even with our own tool sets. We've put things in and we've decided, oh, actually, we don't like how that works. Let's change it, or we've identified a need for something else. Let's add that in, and the tool should, be flexible enough that it can grow and develop along with the business.
Mhm.
So it wouldn't be an IT podcast if we didn't mention AI and automation and things like that. So are these tools that are available in CRM platforms, and what sort of benefit would they have for an organization that's using one?
Absolutely, yeah. There's AI across all CRM tools, of course. Yeah, very hot topic for sure. And yeah, very beneficial to teams that are using CRMs. There's quite a few different, I guess, levels to what is beneficial of AI, whether they're assisting those teams, whether it's generating different parts of the tools and things like that as well. I guess the main theme is reducing the admin time spent and reducing the amount of time on boring tasks and actually spending more time with customers. So things like bringing across the transcripts of calls and updating the CRM with correct notes and things like that, summarizing those. Classically, that would be quite a bit of time spent making notes off of calls and updating spreadsheets worth of information from trade shows and things like that. Whereas with the AI side of the tools, we can grab follow-ups and next steps from all of these calls automatically from the AI transcripts, those action points from within there. We can summarize customer needs based on those calls or existing customers if they're having issues with support and products and identifying churn risk and things like that. We can summarize all of that within seconds as opposed to taking quite a lot of time to get that data out. So yeah, lots on the reducing admin time of the side of things within there. So yeah, lots of reducing admin time, but then also having the generative AI side of things, creating new content, creating new emails that go out to customers at the right time, creating new proposals and quotations and making them look nice. On the marketing side of things, generating the correct content and scheduling that out on the correct social media channels and things like that. All of that saves the digital marketing team a lot of time. It saves the salesperson a lot of time as well.
Yeah, I think time saving is the key, isn't it? And that's where we're seeing the biggest benefit of AI and things in our CRM tools as well. Things like automatically triaging tickets and summarizing customer interactions and things like that. So it allows us, when we go into a strategy meeting with customers, and the CRM platform will have already looked through the last 30 days of tickets, and it will give us a nice summary that says, this has been a positive interaction, or maybe not. Here's some thoughts and some feedback about the customer, and that gives us a bit more information to help us with those customer meetings.
Definitely, yeah. There's always suggested next steps and help towards how you can progress that as well. So instead of trying to look through and generate insights yourself, you've got those ready to go, and you can, well, it's up to you whether you action them or not. It's always good to have the human in the loop, of course, and to make sure that the important decisions are being made by those individuals. But the suggested outcomes, the information that you've got available, the forecasting side of the AI as well, understanding what might be happening on ticket levels at certain times, or pipeline across the year, or marketing activities, suggesting maybe other channels to use or other products to explore. All of those come a lot quicker in modern tools with AI, as opposed to trying to do that manually.
Yeah, I think it definitely comes back to the human, to the real person, to make sensible use of that information. Like anything generated by AI, you do kind of have to, make sure it's accurate and usable and things like that. But it certainly it saves time, and it's useful for just bringing some of that information to life.
Definitely.
So, if a business is still relying on emails and spreadsheets after everything that we've talked about today, what would you say to them?
I'd probably say that the cost of staying on spreadsheets and disconnected tools might be higher than what they think. They might not know the deals that they're losing. They might not be aware of customers that are unhappy as they are, or they might not realize that there's opportunities there to expand into other areas, because that's all lost in the spreadsheets on people's emails or just in people's minds. So yeah, I'd say that the cost of staying still is significantly higher than most people might think. And then also the cost of moving to a CRM and implementing something new and taking that leap is cheaper than people might think. The cost is lower than people might be anticipating. It's not a complete overhaul of your business. It's just improving those already existing workflows and everything that they're working on. So yeah, I definitely, rather than organizations sort of waiting for the right moment and waiting until they get to a certain size, or ultimately waiting until something fails before they move, they should be a little bit more proactive and start moving ahead of time.
Great. I think that's good advice there. Thanks for that.
No problem at all.
Thanks for joining us today. Hopefully, you found that useful. Thanks for Andrew for his insights on that. It was very much appreciated. If there's anything in there that caught your attention or you'd like some more information on, feel free to reach out to us and we can help.